Really? Okay, let's start the video. Say hi. Hi. Sorry, dog voice versus speaking to humans voice tends to sometimes be a little different. Welcome to Turbulent Flow, another vlog update from me, Renee, the Cirque du old lady, where basically I come on here and generally ramble about life, the universe, and everything, which in my life, the universe, and everything is usually going to involve some sort of combination of engineering, circus, with some, breast cancer information tucked in, because I am a two-time breast cancer alumnus. I had a double mastectomy 6 months ago. But today we're talking about manufacturing, work travel, and engineering. And the reason why I'm talking about that is because I literally just got back from a quick trip to Mexico this week. That's what the biggest thing that I did this week. I left Toronto, Canada, where I live. When did I leave? I left very early on Wednesday morning. I arrived in Querétaro, Mexico, and I apologize if I am butchering the name of that particular city, but I arrived in Querétaro, which is essentially a city that's about a 3-hour drive north and west of Mexico City. So it's in central Mexico. It's up in the mountains. It's an industrial city primarily. It has a number of industrial parks that surround it. It's apparently, so I've been told, and from what I've witnessed over the last couple of years, is that Querétaro is an incredibly growing place. Industrial wise, it is becoming a pretty big player. I've certainly seen when even just kind of driving around the industrial parks, I recognize a lot of big manufacturing names. So there is a lot happening in Querétaro. It's even though, if you're not in the manufacturing world, especially within North America, you may have never heard of it. It's not a Mexican vacation destination. It's a it's a normal, regular place where they've got factories, which is kind of one of the key things that I wanted to just sort of talk about today, because the world of manufacturing, if you don't actually sort of exist in it, is not something people are very familiar with these days. And my particular line of work as a machine safety consultant results in me traveling to a lot of different places. I go to a lot of different factories. I work in different industries. I have clients that work in the automotive industry. I have clients from the pharmaceutical industry, food manufacturing, you name it, basically. I get to see how a lot of different things are made, because the type of work that I do is extremely sort of specialized. Just a quick background. I'm a machine safety consultant. Most people who work in health and safety tend to be generalists. I am not a health and safety generalist. I am a safety specialist. I'm a mechanical engineer who specializes in ensuring that machine designs are actually designed to keep the people using those machines safe, making sure those machines are actually in compliance with the applicable safety standards, which is like I said, is a very highly specialized area of engineering, especially when one takes into account the fact that most engineers are not really taught anything about machine safety design in their actual programs. And that actually applies not just to engineers, but to other technical designers and developers. This isn't an area that is taught in school very much. There are some places that teach it, but most technical people are not taught about safety. And most safety people are generalists who usually do not come from highly technical backgrounds. So I kind of straddle both worlds. I am an engineer who specializes in safety, so I help bridge that gap between, what is actually needed from a safety standpoint and how to actually accomplish that from a design standpoint. I don't do the designing myself because that also involves processes and other things that I don't get into. But from a safety standpoint, I help basically sort of merge those two worlds of safety and machine design. Because in a perfect world, we are designing our machines in, all things ideally are designed in a way to inherently be safe. And the best time to do that is at the very beginning of any design process where, you can change anything on paper and it's so much easier. So that's sort of, a very, very quick summary of what it is that I do and why it is that I span a number of different manufacturing industries. So I look at a huge variety of machines. I look at a lot of robots, especially in this day and age where they're kind of driving the automation that's been happening. So lots of robots. Oh, there's the dog. Lots of robots. I look at presses. I look at packaging machines. I look at processing machines. I look at absolutely everything. It's one very long episode of how it's made, and I've been doing this now for over 25 years, which means I've seen a lot of things happening. But one of the things that and because I see a lot of things happening, I do a lot of travel. It's usually not long-term travel. I don't go places for long periods of time. I usually literally go into a place. I might be there for 1 to a few days, and then I go home. So this particular trip to Mexico this week, I flew in to Querétaro on Wednesday. That essentially took up the entire day. Left very early in the morning, arrived at my destination in sort of later afternoon. Went to the factory on Thursday. Spent the entire day there, looking at the piece of machinery that I had been asked to evaluate. Gathered all of my information, went through the documentation, went through the information, did my job. I'm not going to go into that in detail since that's obviously confidential. But I did my work. I slept in Querétaro Thursday night, and Friday morning I got up at 2 a.m. Querétaro time. Went to the airport so that I could be there 2 hours ahead of my flight. So yeah, I took the first flight out, went from Querétaro to Monterrey, from Monterrey to Toronto, and was home, sort of around dinner time on Friday night. So that's the kind of travel that I often do for my job. This particular one was interesting because I was really noticing sort of, this idea that, because I am a woman, I've been traveling for work for a number of years, and so I've developed, sort of some skills and some thoughts and some things that I do when I travel to obviously, try and keep myself safe no matter where in the world I'm traveling to, especially because I'm usually, I rarely go to the same place twice. That's, because I usually go look at new machinery. So because I'm going to different places, sometimes I don't speak the language. I'll freely admit that's definitely outside of my comfort zone. So I don't speak Spanish. So I was traveling, I was traveling in a country where, yeah, most people do not speak English, and kind of figuring it out and, trying to make sure that I'm safe. That fortunately for me, the skills that I've developed over the years, I've learned to ask questions of the people that are asking me to travel. I get recommendations for hotels, and things have certainly changed quite a lot in those last 25 to 30 years that I have been working and traveling. And that's been really interesting, because I was thinking about the fact that it was definitely a little more scary when I was younger. I mean, one, from a safety standpoint, I'm going to freely admit, things have gotten a little less concerning for me. I'm a 50-year-old, I'm over 50 now. I quite literally don't even have any breasts anymore. So I mean, from a targeting standpoint, that is something that has become less of a concern over the years for me. But when I first started traveling for work, I was in my mid-20s. That was definitely something that I had to pay attention to, no matter where in the world I was traveling to. You think about that when you're staying in a hotel by yourself. You think about these things. So I mean, it's something that's less at the top of my mind when I travel now. But I'm not gonna say that it's not something that I think about. And I really, really noticed it because at the hotel that I was staying at, and I think this is becoming more common, the hotel, was making some environmental choices, and one of them was to put motion sensors on the lights in the hallways. So, I'm in a hotel, walking down the hallway, and it's dark. I'm walking down this hallway and the lights are coming on as I'm walking down the hallway. That's, it's just kind of disconcerting. It's a little disconcerting when you're traveling to have that happen. And you're just like, okay, when's the light gonna come on? And that was a little weird. So it certainly got me thinking about safety and how I feel about safety when I travel. I will absolutely admit that when I travel to Mexico, especially, I really don't go anywhere. If I'm on my own, I'm gonna stay in the hotel. I'm probably gonna eat at the hotel. I'm not gonna just go out and wander around. It's an unfortunate fact of being first of all a woman in this world in general, but especially places where I don't speak the language. I can't easily ask for assistance, or even if I get lost, it just, yes, I have Google Translate. At least these days I have a phone. It's got a tracker. I can do things like that. But for the most part, I'm going to stick close to the hotel. So I end up not having a chance to see a lot of different places. I see the factories, and I see the airports. So I mean, that's, they're paying me. I'm doing a job. I'm not there to have fun. That's not what they're paying me for. So I was thinking about this fact because I still enjoy it. That's the really funny thing. Like, I mean, I still enjoy traveling a lot, and this particular line of work has given me the opportunity to travel over the last 25 years to a lot of places where nobody would think to go. Manufacturing and industrial parks are not normally located anywhere near tourist zones. So when I travel, I'm not going to any place that, people are likely to be like, oh yeah, I went there for a vacation. I mean, that said, I was in Cancun on Wednesday. I was in the Cancun airport for 4 hours to change planes, but that's as close as I got to a beach or a tourist destination. But this opportunity to see places that I never, well, a lot of people don't even know exist, because the world's a very big place, and these are not normally, destinations that people talk about. I've grown to really, really appreciate that. I mean, it's pretty neat to be able to go someplace and just kind of see what regular life looks like from a work standpoint in that location, you know. So as the example, like, I mean, kind of one of the funny highlights, I guess, of this particular trip was the simple fact of eating in the cafeteria. Like, I mean, I love Mexican food, but I mean, most of the Mexican food that I have experienced is here in Canada. So, you know, tacos, enchiladas, nachos, you know, North American Mexican food, you know, Canadian Mexican food. This is, you know, what I'm mostly familiar with and able to obtain where I live. But then to be able to go to Mexico and be outside of a tourist zone, so they are not serving things in the cafeteria that is at all designed to appeal to anyone other than the people that live there. And so that was really neat. So, I mean, you know, the drinks dispenser was a great example. You know, you go into the cafeteria, you know, they have reusable glasses, and then they have a drinks dispenser. It's got, you know, multiple things to drink that are on tap. You know, in Toronto, you go to any drinks dispenser like that, you expect to see, you know, Coke, Sprite, you know, ginger ale, root beer. It's just a line of sodas normally. In this particular case, it was, what was it? It was some sort of blueberry thing. I didn't have a chance to try them all. It was a blueberry beverage, horchata, which I already was familiar with, which is a rice-based sweet drink. I knew that was good, so I actually had the horchata. They also had tamarindo. I know what tamarind is. I've had that in food dishes, but I've never had it as a drink before. And then there were some more, you know, recognizable things. There was orange juice. There was something that was clearly strawberry flavor, and then I think there was water. So, you know, just different. And it's interesting to sort of see and experience that. The meal that I had, you know, this is not at all to denigrate it because it was delicious, but I don't know what it was. You know, for lunch, I had what in my brain I basically think of as meat cubes in brown sauce. You know, there was rice, there was beans, and there was a plate of watermelon. You know, these were all separate things, and they were all delicious. Particularly, like, you know, whatever those meat cubes and whatever was in that brown sauce, it was freaking good. I do not know what it was. And now that I'm back in Toronto, I probably never will. But despite the fact of not knowing what it was, happily I don't have any serious allergies. So I was able to eat it, and, you know, and enjoy it. And it was great. And that, I think I really sort of have developed a real appreciation for just how unusual that is, because that particular cafeteria meal actually reminded me of a work trip that I did, I think it was about 2 years ago now, where I had the opportunity to go to China. You know, believe it or not, you know, I flew into China. I was there for 2 days. I did my job. I flew back. So I once more did not get to see really any of the actual, you know, country. I didn't get to do anything that any sane person would consider to be particularly fun. You know, I didn't go on any hikes. I didn't see any sights. I saw a factory. Their cafeteria was fantastic, and it was completely different from cafeterias that, you know, I'm kind of used to in Canada and US factories. You know, I'm very used to those types of cafeterias. But the one in China, everybody got pretty much the same thing. They had it all together, sort of very assembly line. You know, it was a soup, and it was spicy, and it had noodles and different kinds of meat in it. It's freaking delicious. I can't tell you exactly what I ate, but man, it was good. So just a very different sort of experience. It's not what I think of here in Toronto and in Canada as, Chinese food. Canadian Chinese food is its own thing that I recognize, but even, outside of, when you're in Chinatown and at more authentic places here in Toronto, it's the kind of thing that, they're probably not going to serve at a restaurant, because that's more regular plain food, and I really appreciate that. Like, I like being able to sort of see what regular life, regular food, being able to experience that, and and have some and be part of that kind of much more normal working world. It's really interesting. It's really different, and I've really come to start to appreciate how unusual it is. This privilege that I've had to travel around to these different parts of the world and be part of their regular working day. See what a regular work environment looks like, and that I really, really like. I mean, I also take a lot of pride in the work that I do. I mean, great example is the fact that I traveled to Mexico to review equipment in order to ensure that that machinery is going to be safe for the people who use it. The people who are using that machine are Mexican citizens. These are workers that are there. This is a country that's not always, renowned reputationally for being safe, and having excellent working conditions. But there are corporations, there are manufacturing facilities that are going out of their way to try and ensure that, when they do build machinery, when they do build factories, and install these types of processes in other countries, that they are ensuring that they are meeting a level of safety that is considered to be internationally, appropriate for protecting people. Because the human beings that, we're trying to protect when I'm reviewing something from a safety standpoint, that doesn't change. The rules don't change. Best practices and standard practices are generally recognized in international standards. And so those are the types of standards that I'm usually comparing things to. So I take a lot of pride in that, because why wouldn't I? I mean, the whole purpose of my job is to help people identify, that what an appropriate level of safety is for a piece of equipment. That said, I identify the, minimum level of safety. I also help people understand, kind of what is above and beyond, because these things cost money. Like, it's a balancing act. And this is where safety standards really, really come in handy. I'm not going to get into that right now, though, because, wow, you send me down that rabbit hole, and I literally get paid to talk for hours on that particular one. But for today, I mostly just kind of wanted to make a little vlog to document the idea that yeah, I went to Mexico. This is, certainly not my first trip. It was my first trip to Querétaro. It was my first trip to this particular factory, and I just kind of wanted to take a moment to appreciate just how much I like my work, and how much it allows me the opportunity to see so many interesting, regular, like, just kind of finding appreciation in kind of the regular, normal, day-to-day things that, are different from what I see in Toronto, in Canada, in the United States. I mean, I've spent a lot of time over these 3 decades of engineering, traveling across Canada and the US, but it's always fun to go to other countries and see, what's the same and what's different. And I got to do that this week, and I came back pretty happy about it. I came back exhausted because it also takes many hours on an airplane in economy, which is not always the most fun experience. But that's a story for another day. I'll talk about travel tips, tricks, and what I do to not completely end up with every muscle in my body cramped. But actually, speaking of that, that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. Yesterday, so I got home Friday night. Saturday was yesterday. Saturday, my husband and I, we went rock climbing, so I had a chance to stretch out my arms. And now I am geared up. Just got to put my hair up and go set up the cube in the backyard and go do some aerial, and then probably a very, very long stretching session, some rollering to get the remaining kinks out of my body from all that air travel. So I hope you're having a really good day. I hope things are good for you, and I hope if you get the opportunity to go someplace that might be a little outside of your comfort zone, maybe take the time to just notice the small simple things. I mean, because honestly, that's some of the funnest stuff for me. My life is made up of all of the small simple things, and I find that fun and really interesting. So have a good day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.